going to talk about Module 14. So, first is the nature nurture issue, and it's kind of like a debate in the past, but people have come to realize that nature and nurture both play a role in who people are. So, for nature, that's going to be heritability, which is the traits that you inherit from your parents, and environment is the nurture. So, environment is just things around us, people, things around us that just kind of shape us. So, behavior geneticists, they study all of this stuff. They study how environment, how genes, how they all come together, interact to make us all unique and kind of like study they try and like quantify and study like how much of our similarities to others or differences from others are due to nature or are due to nurture. So, DNA is what makes up our genes, and the genes are parts of chromosomes, and the chromosomes make up our genome. So, um, genes, they're like little segments of DNA that are part of the chromosomes, and they get turned on or off. And when they're on, they produce proteins that kind of like do the things in our body. And yes, all the chromosomes together are our genome. And our genes are like 99.9% similar to other people, other humans, but like, um, yeah, our genes also have like differences in different orders. I don't know. But one way that we can study the nature nurture issue is through twins. So, monozygotic twins are identical, they have all the same genes, but sometimes there's like a little difference in like epigenetics, or they have like a different number of something, but for the most part, they have like the exact same genes. And that's because it was like one egg that like split into two. And dizygotic, they are fraternal twins, so that was just like two eggs at the same time. So they don't have the same genes, but they're like born together. So some interesting like studies is that identical twins who are like separated at birth and then brought together, they have like very similar personalities, very similar, just like the way they act, their personality, their fears, their likes, their dislikes. It's like crazy. Some critics say that, like, well, I mean, if you bring any random two people together who have, like, because usually the twins who are separated are, like, in similar home environments, or, like, well, any two people in similar home environments will, like, coincidentally find, like, things they're similar in. But I think that this research is, like, kind of proven valid because fraternal twins who don't have the same DNA who are separated and then they're tested, they are less similar by a lot. So the actually having the same genes does play a big part in this. Um, and it's interesting because people who are adopted show more similarities to their biological parents than to their adopted parents, even if they were adopted as infants. So that kind of like points to the fact that genes are playing a bigger role than environment. However, environment is important because it is also shown that people who are adopted do much better and are more like successful, have higher intelligence, and just do better overall in life than people who are like who are not adopted, as in like their parents were going to put them up for adoption but then decided to raise them themselves. So that's kind of like showing that a good like healthy home environment with like caring parents and all of that support does play a big role in like helping helping kids out. So yeah, it's it's helpful. um heritability is kind of confusing term, but it means, so heritability is how much you look at a population and you see like differences in traits, and you're like, okay, how much can we say or attribute, say that like these differences are due to genetics. So when you look at the differences in height among a population, um, how much can we say that is due to genetics? When we look at the differences in intelligence, what percentage of those differences is due to genetics, is due to genes? So, intelligence is 66% for heritability, and what this does not mean is that you as an individual have 66% of your intelligence from your parents, and then the remaining percent is from your environment. That's not it. It's not like, okay, you have like X percent from genes, Y percent from environment. It's um it's not like an individual thing. So it's like, as a population, and it's about the differences in intelligence in the population. 66% um, of the differences are due to genetics, and then the rest is just due to environment. So, yeah, kind of confusing, but I think you get the idea. With height, it'd be like, I think height is 80% or 90% for heritability. So that just means that like the differences in height that you see in a population are 80% due to genetics. But this doesn't like really show, heritability doesn't show like that in different like cultures they might have different like heights because of diet, or like over time height might change. It's not really explaining that. It's more like explaining just in the population, like 80% of the difference is due to genetics, 20% is due to environment. So if you have people who grow up all in the same environment, like if everybody grew up in the same exact environment, that would make heritability 100% for everything, because that would mean like 0% for the environment, so 100% for genes. Whereas if everybody has the same exact genes, all of their differences would be due to their environment, so that would mean 0% for heritability. Yeah, so kind of cool. Epigenetics is also interesting. It's kind of like the little tags above our genes that turn them on or off. It's kind of like, our DNA is always going to be the same, but the epigenetics are kind of like shaping it, changing it a little bit, but not really changing it, just turning the genes on or off. So having them expressed or having them hidden. Um, yeah, kind of like you can have like a condition, but then it doesn't like show up until later. So it kind of reminds me of that. For example, like in fall, the leaves start turning colors, and that's not because their genes are changing, but because these little tags above the genes are turning them on or off. So they still have the gene for like green, but it's getting turned off. So, yeah, epigenetics also explains why monozygotic twins, one could have like a higher risk for schizophrenia than the other, because of the little tags that can like alter or kind of change the DNA. Um, Also, it's like shown that kind of like trauma, uh, abuse, or just anything traumatic like the Holocaust could like impact epigenetics. So our experiences do like change our epigenetics. And it is possible that these changes can be passed on um, to children. So, um, just because these are little epigenetic tags getting altered throughout our life experiences doesn't mean that they don't get passed on. But I think it also depends, like, not all of them get passed on, but some of them do. So, yeah, hope that you learned something from Module 14.